Adopted my niece after my sister went to rehab, but now that she is sober and dating a wealthy man, she wants custody back immediately, and my niece is terrified to leave me because she doesn't remember her biological mother at all. I'm 29 and I've been the primary caregiver for my niece, Lily, for almost her entire life. Lily is 4 years old now. My younger sister, Zoe, is 26. Our parents passed away when we were in our early 20s, so it's just been the two of us for a long time. Zoe has struggled with substance abuse issues since she was a teenager. It got really bad about 5 years ago. When she got pregnant with Lily, we all hoped it would be the wake-up call she needed to get clean. For a few months, it seemed like it was working. But shortly after Lily was born, Zoe relapsed hard. Social services got involved. Because I was the only family left, I stepped in immediately. I didn't want Lily to go into the foster system. I went through the process to become her legal guardian. It wasn't a formal adoption at the time because the goal was always reunification, but I have full legal guardianship. For the last 3.5 years, Zoe has been in and out of rehab facilities. She would get sober for a month, come visit, and then disappear for 3 months. It was a cycle. I built my entire life around Lily. I work from home as a freelance graphic designer so I can be there for her. I pay for her preschool, her clothes, her doctor appointments, everything. This current situation started about 8 months ago. Zoe finally completed a long-term residential program. It was 6 months long and she actually graduated. I was so proud of her. I really thought this time was different because she seemed clearer in her head than she had in years. She moved into a halfway house and started looking for work. We established a visitation schedule. Zoe would come over on Saturday afternoons for 2 hours of supervised time with Lily. I supervised the visits because Lily didn't really know who Zoe was. To Lily, I am Mama. She calls Zoe Auntie Coco. During these visits, I tried to facilitate a bond. I would tell Lily stories about how much Zoe loves her, but Lily is a very anxious child. She clings to my leg when new people are around. She would usually play with her toys while Zoe sat on the couch and tried to talk to her. It was awkward, but I figured it was a start. Then, about 4 months ago, Zoe met Charles. Charles is in his late 40s and he is very wealthy. I don't know exactly what he does, something in real estate development, I think. Zoe met him at a coffee shop near her halfway house and they started dating. Almost immediately, Zoe's focus shifted. She moved out of the halfway house and moved into Charles's penthouse apartment downtown. She stopped looking for a job because Charles told her she didn't need to work. He wanted to take care of her. I was worried that moving so fast would be bad for her sobriety, but Zoe assured me she was fine. She started showing up to visits wearing designer clothes and driving a brand new SUV that Charles bought her. Suddenly, the visits weren't enough for her. She started talking about how she wanted to be a real mother again. I was supportive of the idea in theory, but I told her we needed to take it slow. Lily barely knew her. We had a plan with the social worker to gradually increase visitation over the next year. About 2 months ago, Zoe brought Charles to a visit. I hadn't agreed to this, but they just showed up at my door. Charles was nice enough, I guess. He brought Lily a huge dollhouse that cost probably $500. Lily was overwhelmed. She didn't want to play with the dollhouse. She just sat in my lap. Charles kept trying to pick her up and Lily started crying. I had to ask them to leave early because Lily was getting so upset. After that, Zoe started pushing harder. She said Charles wanted to take us all on vacation. Wanted to pay for everything. He has a vacation home in Florida and wanted us to go for a week. I told Zoe that Lily needed stability and routine. I said a trip might be too much right now. Zoe got angry and said I was being controlling. She said I was jealous that she had money now and I was still struggling to pay my mortgage. I wasn't jealous. I was just trying to protect Lily. But I didn't want to fight with Zoe when she was doing so well with her sobriety, so I agreed to a compromise. I said we could try to do a day trip to the zoo or something local first to see how Lily handled being out with them for a longer period. We planned this family day for last Saturday. I spent weeks preparing Lily for it. I showed her pictures of the zoo animals. I told her we were going to have fun with Auntie Coco. I paid for the tickets in advance because I like to be prepared, even though Zoe said Charles would cover it. I packed the diaper bag, the snacks, the extra clothes. I had the whole day mapped out so we could avoid Lily's nap time meltdown window. On Saturday morning, Zoe and Charles arrived at my house at 9:00 a.m. They pulled up in a massive luxury SUV. I walked out with Lily, ready to install her car seat in their car so we could go to the zoo. But when I got to the car, the trunk was full of suitcases. I asked Zoe what was going on. She looked at Charles, then looked at me and smiled this bright, fake smile. She said, "Change of plans." Charles surprised me. "We're not going to the zoo. We're going to take Lily to Disney World for the week." I stood there on the driveway, holding Lily's hand, completely confused. I asked her what she meant. I said we had a plan for the zoo. I said Lily doesn't do well with travel or schedule changes. Zoe laughed and said, she's a kid. Every kid loves Disney. Charles booked us first-class tickets. We leave in 3 hours. I looked at Lily. She was hiding behind my leg, clutching her stuffed bunny. She looked terrified of the big car and the loud voices. I told Zoe that we couldn't just drop everything and fly to Florida. I said Lily wasn't packed for a week-long trip. I said I couldn't take a week off work on zero notice. That's when Zoe dropped the real bomb. She said, oh, you're not coming. It's just going to be me, Charles, and Lily. We want to bond as a family. I felt my stomach drop. I asked her if she was serious. I asked her how she expected Lily to react to being taken away from me for a week by 2 people she barely knows. Zoe said, I'm her mother. She'll be fine with me. Charles bought her a ton of toys for the plane. She won't even miss you. I told her absolutely not. I said I am her legal guardian and I do not give permission for her to leave the state. I said this wasn't part of the transition plan we agreed on with the social worker. Charles stepped in then. He has this very arrogant way of speaking. He said, look, we appreciate what you've done babysitting her while Zoe was away. But Zoe is better now. She has the means to provide for her daughter. You should be happy for her. He called it babysitting. I have raised this child for 4 years. I taught her to walk. I potty trained her. I sat up with her when she had fevers. I told them that I wasn't a babysitter. I was her guardian. I told them to leave. Zoe got hysterical. She started screaming that I was stealing her baby. She said I wanted to keep Lily for myself because I didn't have a life of my own. She said I was trying to sabotage her happiness. Lily started screaming and crying because Zoe was yelling. I picked Lily up and tried to soothe her. She was shaking in my arms. I told Zoe that she was scaring Lily. I told her that if she didn't lower her voice, I was going back inside and locking the door. Zoe lunged at me, trying to grab Lily from my arms. Charles had to hold her back. He told her to calm down because it wouldn't look good. I turned around and walked back into the house. I locked the door and the deadbolt. I closed all the blinds. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I was going to pass out. I took Lily into the living room and put on her favorite cartoon. I tried to act calm for her sake, but I was shaking. Zoe and Charles stayed in the driveway for an hour. Zoe was banging on the door and ringing the doorbell repeatedly. Charles was pacing around making phone calls. Eventually they left, but before they pulled away, Zoe sent me a text. It said, you will regret this. Charles has the best lawyers in the city. I'm getting my daughter back today. I spent the rest of the weekend terrified. I kept waiting for the police to show up. I didn't leave the house. I ordered groceries to be delivered and had them leave it on the porch because I was afraid to open the door. On Monday morning, yesterday, I got a call from a lawyer. Not a social worker, but a high-powered family law attorney. He told me that Zoe had filed an emergency motion for full custody. He said that since Zoe was the biological mother and was now sober and financially stable, she had a presumptive right to the child. He said they were alleging that I was alienating the child from the mother and refusing visitation. He said if I didn't cooperate and hand Lily over immediately, they would ask the judge to strip me of all visitation rights once Zoe got custody. I tried to explain to this lawyer that I wasn't refusing visitation. I was refusing an unscheduled out-of-state trip that violated the transition plan. He didn't care. He just kept repeating that his client wanted her daughter. I called the social worker who had been handling our case, but she said since I had legal guardianship and it wasn't a foster case anymore, her hands were somewhat tied if it went to family court. She said she could testify to the transition plan, but that judges often favor biological parents if they are sober and have money. I felt completely helpless. I have spent every penny I have raising Lily. I don't have money for a high-powered lawyer. I have a small savings account for emergencies, but nothing that can compete with Charles's money. Then last night, Zoe texted me again. She sent me pictures of a bedroom they had set up for Lily in the penthouse. It looked like a magazine cover. Everything was pink and expensive. She said, look what you're keeping her from. She could have everything. You're being selfish keeping her in that small house. I looked around my living room. It's small. There are toys scattered everywhere. The couch is worn out. But it's Lily's home. It's the only home she knows. I started second-guessing myself. I sat there in the dark after Lily went to sleep and wondered if maybe I was being selfish. Maybe Zoe could give her a better life. Charles has money for private schools and travel and everything I can't afford. But then I thought about Lily's face when Zoe tried to grab her. She was terrified. She doesn't know these people. To her, they are strangers who yell. I decided I couldn't just hand her over. I texted Zoe back and said I would see her in court, but I wasn't giving Lily to her until a judge ordered me to. Now I'm waiting. I'm scared to death. I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle against money and biology. I don't know what to do if the police come to take her. I don't know how to explain to a 4-year-old why she has to go live with strangers. I feel like I'm about to lose the only child I've ever had, and everyone is telling me I should be happy that her real mom is back. But I feel like I'm her real mom. Update: I'm writing this from my kitchen table, and I'm exhausted. I haven't slept more than 3 hours a night since Saturday. I wanted to update because things have escalated quickly, and reading the comments made me realize I needed to stop waiting and start acting. First, I want to address the comments asking about the legal status. I am the legal guardian, appointed by the court 3 years ago. It wasn't a temporary foster placement. It was a guardianship order because Zoe was deemed unfit at the time. However, guardianship can be terminated if the parent proves they are fit again. That's what Zoe is trying to do. A lot of you told me to get a lawyer immediately, even if I couldn't afford it. I spent all of Tuesday calling around. I found a family law attorney who specializes in contested guardianships. She isn't cheap, but she agreed to a payment plan once I explained the situation. I had to put $5,000 on a credit card for the retainer, which maxed out my card, but I didn't have a choice. I met with her yesterday. She told me that Zoe and Charles's emergency motion was mostly bluster. She said that while biological parents do have rights, a judge isn't going to just rip a 4-year-old from the only home she's known overnight just because the mom has a rich boyfriend now. She said the best interest of the child is the standard, and stability is a huge part of that. While I was at the lawyer's office, my phone started blowing up. It was Zoe. She was texting me repeatedly, asking if I had come to my senses. She said Charles was getting impatient and that they had already rescheduled the Disney trip for next week. I didn't respond. My lawyer, let's call her Kimberly, told me to stop communicating with them directly. She sent a formal letter to Charles's lawyer stating that all communication goes through her now. When I got home, there was a package on my porch. It was huge. I opened it and it was another toy, a motorized minicar like a pink Jeep. There was a note attached that said, "For Lily, since her aunt won't let her have fun." I felt sick. They are trying to buy her affection before they even have her. I dragged the box into the garage and hid it. Lily doesn't need a car, she needs to feel safe. Then about 2 hours later, there was a knock on the door. I froze. I checked the peephole and it was the police. My heart stopped. I thought they were there to take her. I opened the door, shaking. The officers were actually really nice. They said they had received a call for a welfare check. Zoe had called them and claimed that I was holding Lily hostage and that the house was unsanitary. I invited them in. I showed them Lily, who was sitting at the kitchen table coloring. I showed them her clean room, the full fridge, the running water. I showed them the guardianship paperwork I keep in a binder by the door now. The officers looked annoyed, not at me, but at the situation. One of them said, "This looks like a civil dispute, ma'am. The child appears fine." They left. But the fact that Zoe would call the police and lie about the conditions of my home just to harass me made me realize she hasn't changed as much as she claims. She's still manipulative. She just has a bankroll now. I called Kimberly, my lawyer, immediately. She was furious. She said this helps our case because it shows Zoe is erratic and trying to weaponize the police. Today, we had a preliminary hearing. It was over Zoom. I had to set Lily up with a movie in her room with headphones so she wouldn't hear. Zoe and Charles were on the screen, sitting in what looked like a conference room with their lawyer. Zoe looked perfect, hair done, expensive suit. Charles looked bored. Their lawyer argued that I was obstructing Zoe's parental rights and that I was hostile to reunification. He brought up the Disney trip and said denied Lily a cultural opportunity. My lawyer argued that Zoe disappeared for months at a time and has only been sober for 8 months. She emphasized that Lily has no attachment to Zoe and that forcing an immediate transition would be psychologically damaging. The judge was stern. She asked Zoe when the last time she spent more than 4 hours with Lily was. Zoe stammered and looked at Charles. She couldn't answer. The judge denied their emergency motion for immediate custody. I almost cried with relief right there in my kitchen chair. However, the judge did order a new visitation schedule. She said we need to move towards reunification if Zoe stays sober. She ordered 3 visits a week, 2 hours each, unsupervised, but they have to stay within a 5-mile radius of my house. No trips to Florida, no overnights yet. I felt a knot in my stomach about the unsupervised part. 2 hours alone with them. Lily is going to panic. Kimberly told me this was a win, even if it doesn't feel like it. It stops them from taking her out of the state. It forces them to actually put in the work instead of just buying a kid. I texted Zoe the schedule the judge set. She replied with just, "Charles is going to hire a private investigator to watch you. If you slip up even once, we will take her." I feel like I'm living in a fishbowl. I'm afraid to even have a glass of wine after Lily goes to bed in case they claim I'm an alcoholic. I'm afraid to let Lily play in the front yard in case she scrapes her knee and they claim abuse. I tried to explain to Lily that she is going to go to the park with Auntie Coco on Saturday without me. She started crying. She asked, "Will you be in the car?" I had to say no. I don't know how I'm going to get through Saturday. I have to hand her over to them for 2 hours. I know they are just going to fill her with sugar and promise her the world. I'm scared that eventually the money will win. Charles can keep dragging this out in court forever. I have $5,000 left on my credit card limit. After that, I don't know how I pay Kimberly. I'm trying to stay strong for Lily, but I feel like I'm drowning. Update 2, it's been a week since the court hearing. Saturday was the first unsupervised visit. It was a disaster, but not in the way I expected. I spent all Friday night prepping Lily. I told her Auntie Coco loves her and they were just going to the park down the street. I put a tracker in her shoe. I know that sounds paranoid, but after the Disney threat, I wasn't taking chances. Zoe and Charles pulled up at 10:00 a.m. They didn't bring the SUV this time, they brought a convertible sports car, a 2-seater. I walked out with Lily. I looked at the car. I asked where Lily was supposed to sit. There is no back seat. Zoe looked at the car, then at Charles. She said, "Oh, we thought she could sit on my lap, it's just to the park." I refused. I told them it's illegal and dangerous. I said I wasn't releasing her to them without a proper car seat in a proper vehicle. Charles got angry. He said, "It's a Porsche. It's safe." He started yelling about how I was looking for reasons to deny the visit. I pulled out my phone and started recording. I asked him to repeat that he wanted to transport a 4-year-old without a car seat. He shut up immediately. They had to leave and come back 30 minutes later in the SUV. By then, Lily was already worked up and crying because of the yelling. I buckled her in. She was sobbing, reaching for me. It broke my heart. I had to close the door and watch them drive away. I sat by my phone for exactly 2 hours. I watched the dot on the tracker. They went to the park, then they went to an ice cream shop. They brought her back 5 minutes late. Lily was covered in chocolate, holding a giant stuffed bear, but her eyes were red and puffy. When she saw me, she ran so fast she almost tripped. She buried her face in my shirt. Zoe got out of the car. She looked annoyed. She said, "She cried the whole time. You turned her against me." I told her I didn't turn anyone against her. I said Lily is 4 and she's scared. Zoe said, "Charles thinks she needs therapy. He knows a child psychologist who can fix this attachment issue." I told her Lily doesn't need fixing, she needs time. The next 2 visits this week were similar. Lily cries when they come. She comes back exhausted and clingy. But here is the new development. My lawyer, Kimberly, called me yesterday. She received a settlement offer from Charles's lawyer. They are offering to pay off my mortgage and give me $50,000 cash if I voluntarily relinquish guardianship and sign a non-disclosure agreement. They are trying to buy the child. I read the email 3 times. I felt so insulted. Do they think I'm doing this for money? Do they think Lily is a piece of property with a price tag? I told Kimberly to tell them to go to hell. Kimberly told me to calm down and let her draft a professional refusal. She said this is actually good evidence for us. It shows they view custody as a transaction, but it also scares me. It shows how much money they are willing to throw at this. $50,000 is a lot of money. It would change my life. I could pay off my debts. But then I look at Lily sleeping in her bed with her bunny. I look at how she trusts me to chase away the monsters. I can't sell that. I won't. I texted Zoe against advice, I know, but I was so angry. I asked her if she really thought she could buy my silence. She didn't text back. Charles did from her phone. He said, "Everyone has a price. Don't be stupid. You can't win a war of attrition against me. I will bankrupt you in legal fees and end up with the kid anyway. Take the deal." I screenshot the text and sent it to Kimberly. I feel like I'm in a movie. Who says things like that? War of attrition. I realized something important. Zoe isn't the one driving this anymore. It's Charles. He's obsessed with winning. I don't think he cares about Lily at all. He just wants to win the lawsuit, and Zoe is just going along with it because she's dependent on him. If he leaves her, she has nothing. She's not independent, she just traded one addiction for another. I'm meeting with Kimberly tomorrow to discuss filing a motion to appoint a guardian ad litem, a lawyer specifically for Lily. Kimberly thinks that if a neutral party interviews Lily and sees the dynamic, they will recommend against full custody. It will cost another $2,000. I'm going to sell my car. I have an older sedan that is paid off. I can take the bus or Uber. I don't care. I will sell everything I own before I let them treat Lily like a trophy. I'm tired, but I'm not giving up. Update 3, it's been 3 weeks since the buyout offer. I sold my car. It hurt to let it go, but I paid the retainer for the guardian ad litem gal. The gal is a woman named Carol. She came to my house last week. She spent 2 hours just sitting on the floor playing Legos with Lily. She watched us interact. She was very quiet, taking notes. Then she went to interview Zoe and Charles. I was nervous about what they would show her. The penthouse, the toys, the perfect image. Yesterday, we had a status hearing. Carol presented her preliminary report. She told the judge that while Zoe has the financial means, there is a significant lack of psychological bond between the mother and child. She noted that Lily shows signs of extreme distress during transitions, but the bombshell was about Charles. Carol reported that during her interview at the penthouse, Charles kept interrupting Zoe. He answered questions directed at the mother. When Carol asked to see Lily's room there, Charles showed off the expensive toys but didn't know the name of Lily's favorite cartoon or what she is allergic to strawberries. Carol also mentioned the buyout offer. She called it concerning and indicative of a lack of understanding of the child's best interests. The judge looked at Charles. She asked him directly if he sent the text about the war of attrition. Charles stood up. He didn't even wait for his lawyer. He said, "Your Honor, I am simply trying to facilitate a stable environment. This woman pointing at me is an obstacle." The judge told him to sit down. She said, "In my courtroom, children are not assets to be acquired." Then something happened that I didn't expect. Zoe spoke up. She stood up. She looked shaking. She said, "Your Honor, can I say something?" Charles tried to grab her arm to stop her. She pulled away. She said, "Lily hates coming to my house. She cries the whole time. I don't think she's ready to live with us." Charles looked at her like he wanted to kill her. The courtroom went silent. Zoe started crying. She said, "I just wanted to be a mom again, but she doesn't know me." And Charles just wants to win. She admitted it. The judge asked Zoe what she wanted. Zoe said, "I want to keep visiting, but I don't want to force her to move in right now. I want to withdraw the emergency motion for custody." Charles stood up and stormed out of the courtroom, just walked right out. My lawyer squeezed my hand under the table. I felt like I could breathe for the first time in months. The judge accepted the withdrawal. She kept the guardianship in place. She ordered that the visitation schedule remain, but she added a stipulation that Charles is not allowed to be present during visits for the next 90 days to allow the mother and child to bond without interference. We walked out of the courtroom. Zoe was sitting on a bench in the hallway, crying. Her lawyer was packing up his briefcase, looking annoyed. I walked over to her. I didn't know what to say. She looked up at me. Her mascara was running. She said, "He broke up with me. He just texted me." He said I humiliated him. She told me she has to move out of the penthouse by the weekend. She has nowhere to go. She has no job, no money, and no car. The SUV was in his name. I felt a flash of anger at Charles mostly, but also at Zoe for being so foolish. But then I remembered the last 3 years. I remembered that addiction is a monster. And I remembered that she just stood up to a bully to protect her daughter. I told her she could come over for dinner on Saturday. Just dinner, not to move in. She nodded. She said, "Thank you." I drove home in an Uber. I picked Lily up from preschool. She asked if we were going to the park with Auntie Coco. I said not today. I know this isn't over. Zoe is unstable again. She's homeless and jobless, which puts her at risk for relapse. I have to be vigilant. But for now, Lily is safe. She's staying with me. I'm going to help Zoe find a shelter or a sober living home. I'm not going to enable her, but I'm not going to let her die on the street either. She's still my sister. And maybe, without Charles's money and ego in the way, we can actually go back to the original plan. Slow, steady, real. I looked at my bank account today. I have $12 until I get paid on Friday. I have no car. I have a mountain of legal debt. But I tucked Lily in tonight and she fell asleep holding my hand. She didn't cry. She didn't ask about the big car. She just said, "Night, night, mama." And that is worth every single penny I lost.